Hello and welcome to my new FPL video. In this one, I'm going to create a wildcard team ahead of game week 11. I've actually activated the chip myself this week, so what you see on here is likely to be very similar to what I end up with come Saturday lunchtime. There are a few players that are definitely going to make this squad, so I'm going to start with them. First of all, we have David Raya in goal. Now I know he was a very popular pick for those wildcarding in game week 6, with the great fixtures ahead of Leicester, Southampton and Bournemouth. Obviously, that didn't go as well as had been hoped, especially after the red card in the Bournemouth game. But if we actually look at the expected stats, Arsenal's defence was looking slightly better than it had been previously in the season when they actually had been keeping clean sheets. At home to Leicester, it was only 0.32 expected goals conceded. Southampton was 0.65. As we mentioned, the Bournemouth game was a bit of a disaster. But then Liverpool at home, 0.85. That's great. And Newcastle last week, that was only 0.5 for expected goals. Now, the clean sheets haven't been coming for the last 6 games, but with these kind of numbers, they're definitely on the horizon. And let's look at what Arsenal have got coming next. Okay, so Chelsea away isn't the greatest start. But in the next 8 weeks, Forest, West Ham, Fulham, Everton, Palace, Ipswich, Brentford, all these matches Arsenal could do really well in defensively. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see 3 or 4 clean sheets in that time. As such, David Raya is definitely in my team, and I'm so confident in the Arsenal defence, I actually think it's a good idea to double up on them. Arsenal centre-backs William Saliba and Gabriel are the most nailed of Arsenal's back four alongside David Raya. In this particular instance, it's going to be Saliba that I go for, the reason being is the 0.2 million saving. Now I know Saliba doesn't offer the same goal threat as Gabriel going forward, in fact, he's offered nothing so far in that area this season. Nonetheless, these are the choices that you have to make sometimes. Continuing defensively, there are 2 other players that definitely make this squad. First of all, we have Ryan Aït-Nouri of Wolves. Okay, so Wolves' defence has been pretty shambolic this season in truth. There haven't been any clean sheets at all, and the expected goals against of 1.9 per 90 minutes is pretty hopeless. But we know that Wolves have had a bad run of fixtures. We've seen them play City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, Villa, Brighton, all good attacking teams. And now the run is somewhat different. I can't say that Wolves are now going to go and keep a load of clean sheets in the next 7, but Southampton, Everton, Ipswich and Leicester are 4 of the bottom 5 teams for expected goals scored this season. And they're also right down the bottom for expected goals conceded too. So Wolves, as the very attacking team, will create plenty of chances. And Aït-Nouri, playing at left wing back at the moment, has been getting to fantastic attacking positions. He's already scored 3 goals and got 2 assists in a team that haven't even won a game yet. That's a great record. With this kind of run, he's really got to be in the team. Another player that is definitely making my squad is Lewis Hall of Newcastle. He's been absolutely nailed on at left back for the last, 5 games. Here we go. City, Everton, Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal. He's played the full 90 minutes in pretty much all of those, getting 1 assist in the process. He was competing with Lloyd Kelly at the beginning of the season, over the first 2 or 3 games, but he's definitely made that position his own now. It's not like Kelly's injured, he's just not getting the chances. So, looking at Lewis's numbers, 0.17 expected assists per 90, that is not bad at all. Newcastle's fixtures are pretty good straight away. Forest away is good from a defensive perspective. West Ham and Palace is not bad either. The Liverpool game isn't great in game week 14, but after that it gets even better with Brentford, Leicester and Ipswich. It's a great run. After that, there's Villa, United and Spurs, which is a little bit trickier, but then the good run starts again with Wolves, Bournemouth, Southampton and Fulham. At 4.3 million, that's a great set of fixtures. He's going to do really, really well, and he's definitely coming into my team. 4 of the midfield slots I'm completely decided upon too. Mo Salah is having an excellent season. He's already got 93 points, and if he carries on at this rate, it's going to be his highest scoring season yet. With 7 goals and 5 assists in his first 10 games, that is a fabulous return. His expected goals of 0.58 and expected assists of 0.18 are right there at the top players in the games, and this is no surprise. Salah's always been a class act. And the long-term fixture run looks great too. City at home in game week 13 is the hardest match in the next 15 games, and they've been really struggling lately too. 3 defeats on the bounce. It's not like we can't see Salah scoring against them at the moment. Villa capitulated to Spurs last week 4-1, so their defence can be got at. But in between the 2 of those is Southampton, which is a wonderful fixture. Right now, Salah feels like one of the top options of the premiums to own. With that run of fixtures, I can't see myself going without him at all. Next, there's another player who pretty much picks himself. It's Brian Mbeumo. 7.1 points per game for 7.9 million is a wonderful source of value. His minutes are always fantastic. He's played 90 minutes every game bar 2, and even then he was coming off after the 85th minute. And his expected goals of 0.38, expected assists of 0.24 are fantastic numbers for a player at that price. He's in the middle of a great fixture run, with Brentford having recently beaten Ipswich 4-3, where Mbeumo scored twice, including a penalty, and that run is not finished quite yet. Bournemouth have been wonderful at home, but on the road that's a different story. Everton may have improved defensively, but that is still a team that Mbeumo can target. But last of all, in Game Week 13, at home to Leicester, that's one of the best matches of the season for Mbeumo. I would not want to be without him for those 3 games. Afterwards, Villa away and Newcastle at home are decent. You can certainly hold on to him. There's going to become a point where you want to move him on. With the fixtures ahead, we've got Chelsea, Arsenal, City and Liverpool. Maybe that's a bit too tricky to keep him going, but you're going to get 3 great fixtures and certainly 2 more that you haven't got to worry about. Sticking to midfielders, another player I definitely want in this wildcard team is Bruno Fernandes. He scored his first goal of the season against Chelsea from the penalty spot last week, getting 10 points. But we can see he's racked up 3.8 expected goals so far this season. That's huge underperformance so far, but we can see from Fernandes' history in previous seasons, generally speaking, his goals scored is pretty much the same as his expected goals. There's 9.73 expected goals last year, 10 scored. 9.33 expected goals the year before, 8 scored. He's been a little bit unfortunate this year, it must be said, hitting the woodwork twice among other things. We can expect those numbers to be a lot closer by the end of the season, and luck will probably turn more in his favour at some point. And what better time than when you're playing 2 of the worst defences in the league? Leicester at home and Ipswich away are just wonderful fixtures for him. Everton at home is not too bad either. Now, I don't look at Fernandes as a long-term pick. I'm really just looking at him for 3 weeks. But that's plenty of time for United to score some major points. We know Ruben Amorim is coming as their new manager, and how often have we seen teams get a new manager bounce? It wouldn't surprise me at all if United go out and score 9 or 10 goals in the next 3 games. It sounds like a lot, but if that happens, Fernandes, who is so involved in their attacking moves, is going to do fantastically well. I'm happy to move him on in game week 14 and accept that's a transfer I have to make just to get these 3 games out of him. And for similar reasons, I'm also looking to bring Garnacho into my midfield. He's played the full 90 minutes for the last 6 matches in a row and may consider himself a little bit unlucky to have only scored 2 goals and got 1 assist, considering he's hit the woodwork 3 times this season, more than any other player in the league. His expected goals at 0.46 for 90 look excellent, and as I've said, I wouldn't be at all surprised if United go and score a lot of goals over these next 3 games. Unlike Fernandes, at 6.3 million, it's not essential to sell Garnacho straight away in game week 14. At that price, he can sit on your bench for a little while, and if you've still got him in game week 17 and 18, then there's 2 more nice fixtures against Bournemouth and Wolves. If you choose to move him on, that's absolutely fine too. But with those 3 fixtures in game weeks 11 to 13, I really think doubling up on United's attack is a great move on wildcard. The last midfielder I'm looking to bring in is another premium, and it's Son from Spurs. I'm actually only looking to bring Son in for 1 week before I move him on to Cole Palmer, should Cole Palmer be fit. But with the game that Son has at home to Ipswich, I'm happy to take a 1 week punt on him and book in the transfer. Ipswich have been the worst defence in the league this season for expected goals conceded, and Spurs at home have been formidable. We've seen them score 4 goals against Everton, 3 against Brentford, 4 against West Ham and 4 against Villa. That is some record, and they're creating so many chances. Spurs could really put Ipswich to the sword this week. Goodness knows how many goals they're going to get. Even though it's only a 1 week punt with Son, I really feel like it's important to cover that Spurs attack, and there's another reason too. The fact is, we have a perfect replacement coming up in Cole Palmer in game week 12. Chelsea have Leicester and Southampton away within 3 games, which is great, but this week they have Arsenal at home, which obviously is one of the hardest games of the season. And there's another thing. We also know that Cole Palmer has a knock after being caught on the knee by Lisandro Martinez in the last game. So, we're not completely certain he's going to be fit for Arsenal yet. And wrestlers come out and say that they're hopeful, but that's not a guarantee. Leicester away is on the 23rd of November, which is over 2 weeks from now. We're bound to have an awful lot more information by then. So, no reason to get him in this week, just in case it turns out he has got a long-term injury. But the perfect replacement for Son if it turns out that he hasn't, and I suspect that will almost definitely be the case. So, it's a pre-booked transfer next week, which isn't ideal, but when you've got Son at home to Ipswich in 1 week, followed by Palmer away to Leicester the next, I think that is the one time where you can really say it's actually worth doing that. And he's not the only Spurs player I want to bring in this week. On the back of 2 goals and an assist against Villa, Solanke has hit form at just the right moment for Ipswich at home. And he's not the only Spurs player that I want to bring in this week. After 2 goals and an assist against Villa in game week 10, Solanke is hitting form at just the right moment for this great Ipswich fixture. He did have 3 weeks of not being very involved in the Spurs attack for the games with Brighton, West Ham and Crystal Palace, and that prompted a lot of managers to sell him. But if we look a little further back, his stats against United and Brentford, with 1.33 expected goals and 1.61, were absolutely phenomenal. All in all, 0.65 expected goals per 90 and 0.08 expected assists is a great record so far this season. I just don't think I could go without him for this Ipswich game. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he gets at least another couple there, and he's definitely coming into my team. I also want to double up on Wolves this week, and although Cunha is the pick of the Wolves forwards, for £1 million less, Strand Larsen is the player I'm going to bring into my team. Just like Cunha, he has 4 goals this season, and although his stats of 0.27 goals per 90 aren't at the same level, we saw against Palace last week just how composed and calm he can be in front of goal. And again, the fixture run for Wolves, we've talked about it beforehand, but it's just fantastic from an attacking point of view. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see Larsen double his goal tally over the next 7 weeks, and even when the trickier fixtures come in game weeks 18 and 19, at 5.6 million, he's the kind of player that you can't leave on your bench for 1 or 2 weeks before being forced to move him on. With those fixtures, you really can't go wrong with a Wolves striker at that price. The last forward spot in my team is going to go to Nicholas Jackson of Chelsea. He's been having a fantastic season with 6 goals and 3 assists over 10 games, and again, 0.68 goals per 90. Those stats are great. We look at his minutes and they're great. He starts every game, and although he doesn't always get to 90, the further into the season we've got, the more minutes per 90 he's actually been getting. And we've already had a quick look at how great that Chelsea fixture run is. The first game against Arsenal is actually one I'd bench him for with this squad because our attacking options are so good elsewhere. You can see the level of the teams that Chelsea will be facing in this run. Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich, well, we know how weak those defences are. Wolves, not much better. Bournemouth, not a great away team. Palace really struggling this season. Okay, so Brentford, Villa, Spurs, Fulham, they're sides that can give Chelsea a game, but that's not an awful lot out of 11 fixtures. It's a fabulous run. I want to invest in Chelsea as much as possible. Palmer is the obvious pick, clearly. No one wants to go without him. But Jackson seems to be number 2 on the list, and he's definitely coming into my team. That leaves us with 3 more spots to fill, and I'll start with our next defender. Ferdi Kadioglu, hoping I said that right, of Brighton, is a player I have become more interested in over the last 3 weeks. He's had 3 starts in a row, away at Liverpool, home to Wolves, and home to Newcastle, and he's playing some good minutes now. He even got a goal against Liverpool in his last match. Now, the interesting thing about Ferdi Kadioglu is this is a defender. He actually played the last game on the right wing for Brighton. Any defender playing on the wing has the potential to be a great FPL option, but we've also heard from Fabian Herzler how Kadioglu is now settled in with the first team and is looking fitter and more physically strong and ready to play more games, which obviously we can see is exactly what's been happening. Now, okay, Brighton's first fixture home to Man City isn't the greatest, but again, with the squad structure that I've got, he doesn't have to play that match. Afterwards, we've got a very nice run of 7 games. Bournemouth away and Fulham away aren't the easiest fixtures, but they're pretty decent for Brighton. But with Southampton, Leicester, Palace, West Ham and Brentford in the mix as well, that then becomes a great run. I really want to be invested in Brighton over this period. I'm not certain which Brighton attacker would be likely to start all of these good matches, except probably Mitoma. João Pedro has been out with injury for a while. When he does come back in, that might threaten the places of Rutter or Danny Welbeck, making all 3 of them potentially no-goes. But I do want to have some investment in that Brighton team, so Kadioglu seems like a very nice pick at 4.5 million. My last defender is going to be Anthony Robinson. Of Fulham. Fulham have been exceptional this season. They've only lost 3 games all year to Villa, City and United. I'm sure a few of us remember the City game where they were very unfortunate to lose, missing a selection of one-on-ones with Ederson pulling off some remarkable saves. They've also shown great defensive numbers this season. 1.12 expected goals against per 90 is one of the top 5 in the league. Arsenal only better them slightly at 1.07. Now, they've only had one clean sheet so far, but you've got to feel like there's a fair chance of that improving in their favour. Also, Anthony Robinson carries quite a significant assist threat. He has 3 already this season, including the last-minute cross for Harry Wilson's header against Brentford last week. As a player who likes to get forward in a good defensive team, he's someone I definitely like to own. The fixtures aren't perfect. I mean, we have no complaints with Palace away and Wolves at home in the first 2, and Brighton is decent too. Obviously, Arsenal and Liverpool is trickier, but we're really planning ahead a bit as well with this transfer. From Game Week 17 onwards, Fulham face Southampton, Ipswich and Leicester all within the space of 6 weeks. It's a wonderful run. It's good to have players with longevity in your team, and Fulham certainly have that. He's the perfect final addition in my defensive ranks. So that leaves our final goalkeeping spot, which is going to be taken up by Lucas Fabianski of West Ham. Fabianski has got himself back into the starting 11 at West Ham for the last 2 games and is the only starting goalkeeper at 4 million in the entire game. Now, he's backup for Raya at the end of the day, although, interestingly enough, the first match at home to Everton in Game Week 11 is one we might look to play him in. With Arsenal away at Chelsea and Fabianski at home to Everton, I think that might be a choice I decide to make, but it's not for everybody. After that, it's Raya all the way. But having a backup goalkeeper at 4 million who actually plays is a wonderful thing for an FPL manager, so he is the last player in my team. Now you'll notice I have a budget left of 1.1 million, and that is to enable me to make the transfer from Son at 9.9 million to Cole Palmer at 11 million, should Palmer prove to be fit for Game Week 12 from the match against Leicester. If he's not, I'm happy to hold on to Son for a little bit longer and keep the money in the bank until it's needed elsewhere. Okay, so that's all for now. I hope you found this video helpful. As always, please do hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Thank you again for watching. See you for the next one.